Hiya. So we're going to go for our next part of the Sandman and the Turtles. So, can you remember what had happened so far? Which characters had we met? We had Michael, the boy that was in the story. Now, we talked before about how in Casper, Prince of Cats, Michael Morpurgo wrote in the first person. Have you noticed what he's done with this book? Let me remind you. Read the first bit. You can keep Christmases, birthdays and all that. For me, the high time of the year was always summer. It was, you could pick up warm eggs, you could clean down the milking parlour. For a city boy like me, it was paradise and I never wanted anything else. You notice what Michael Morpurgo's done there? He's used first person again, hasn't he? So we met Michael, who's telling us this story. We met Auntie Ellery, his cousin, Michael's cousin Barry, Dadci. You remember what Dadci meant? It's his grandfather, wasn't it? His granddad. We met Barry, his cousin, who has, what's he done to his leg? He's broken his leg. And did we say Polly? We met Polly, the younger sister of Barry, the other cousin. So last night in the story, it was time for bed and Dadci was reading Polly the story, he wasn't reading, he was making the stories up, wasn't he? He's telling the story of the Sandman and the three turtles. So let's see what's going to happen next. Another one, said Polly, wafting away the smoke. An old trick this. I'd done it myself. You talk Dadci into another story and another story so that you never have to go to bed. It wasn't that difficult either because Dadci loved telling his stories. He'd settle back, puff his pipe, and off he'd go again. Next, he told us the one about the lighthouse on Coracle Island and the lighthouse keeper, an old Russian sea captain called, and we all chanted his name together, Sergei Ivanovich Prokofiev. Can you remember what a coracle was? It was part of the Sandman story yesterday. It was a small round boat that the Sandman travelled in, and it had been turned to stone and became the island, Coracle Island. On a dark and dreadful night over 100 years ago, Sergei Ivanovich Prokofiev, captain of the fastest clipper in the Russian merchant fleet, was caught in a hurricane and driven onto Coracle Rock. A clipper is a type of boat, okay? He lost his ship and most of his crew with it. It wasn't his fault, but he blamed himself just the same, and it was the shame of it that kept him from going home to Russia. Instead, he stayed and became the lighthouse keeper on Coracle Rock, and every night without fail the light shone out from the lighthouse to warn away the ships. Then, one night, the light never came on. And when they went to find out what the matter was, he had disappeared. What do you think's happened? Where's he gone? Have a few guesses now. I think we might be about to find out. They found the door locked fast from inside. They had to pick the lock. Inside it was all ship-shape, tidy. The bed had been made, the washing up done, and just one window left open. And on the table they found an empty cake tin. Welsh cakes were his favourite. And there was a sky blue teapot. There was more. On the chest of drawers was a clock that had stopped at precisely 5 o'clock, and a bottle of vodka with an empty glass beside it. They found his clothes folded neatly on the top of an old sea chest, and a gull's feather by the window. Can't be a shadow of a doubt about it, children. Old Sergei had turned himself into a seagull so he could fly home at last to Russia. And there's some that say, Dadci was finishing in a foggy flurry of pipe smoke, that if you were to put the light on again in the lighthouse, that would bring old Sergei, and we all chorused again, Ivanovich Prokofiev back to his lighthouse so he could cook himself some more Welsh cakes and pour himself a nice cup of tea. Shivery, said Polly. And please, could she have the dragon story now? Please, Dadci, she pleaded. I want the one about the spiky blood-red dragon that sleeps on his treasure in the damp, dark lair down on Whale Tooth Beach. I like it when all the little people come creeping creeping across the pebbles to steal his treasure, and he hears the stones crunching, and it wakes him up, and he chases them. And they run away as fast as they can, and he breathes out his fire and his thick black smoke, and he frazzles them up so that they're all turned into standing stones on Buzzard Rock. Tell us that one, please, Dadci. But, Polly, there's nothing much to tell now, is there? Said Dadci, laughing. You've just gone and told it yourself, haven't you? There we are, then, said Auntie Ellery, seizing her opportunity. Say good night now, Polly. Cooked your goose there, Barry sniggered. What does that mean, cooked your goose? Any ideas? Any thoughts? Cooked your goose. Once it's cooked, it's finished. She's spoiled the end of the story by telling a story, and now she's got to go to bed. Barry and I lay in the dark and chatted way into the night. We had a whole year to catch up on. With just a little bit of sleep in between, we were still at it at breakfast when Polly announced that she was going to the beach. Not on your own, you're not, said Auntie Ellery, and Polly looked across at the table at me with a smile of a tyrant. He's busy, said Barry firmly. Pegleg, said Polly. Parrot, said Barry. That'll be enough of that, Uncle Rob growled from behind his newspaper. As usual, it was Auntie Ellery who kept the peace and sorted it all out. I would be shared. I'd spend the mornings, if that was all right with me, with Polly down on the beach, and the afternoons with Barry. Barry was none too happy about it, but he cheered up, when I said that maybe we could fly his kite that afternoon if the wind was okay. So there it was. There I was, tripping down through the fields to White Sounds Beach with Polly, leading me like a donkey. And like a donkey, it was me who carried the bucket, the spade, the towels, and the picnic. Polly had grown up a lot. She told me so all the way there, and then opened her mouth and waggled a wobbly tooth at me just to prove it. She fell on her knees in the sand beside the Sandman rocks and clasped her hands together. I know, she said, beaming up at me. Let's pretend we're children. We'll build a real Sandman, all of our own, and we'll make him as fat as can be. You can make his body, and I'll find some shells and make his buttons and his mouth and his eyes and his nose. Come on! There are some people who just expect you to do what you're told, and Polly was one of them, so I didn't argue. Off she went down to the beach, bottom in the air, looking for cowries and mussels and cockles and limpets. Does anyone know what cowries, mussels, cockles and limpets are? You might have found some on the beach before if you've been there. They're all different types of shells, aren't they? I began to think about how to build the Sandman's body. It was going to take a lot of digging and an awful lot of sand. As Dadci said in his story, the Sandman was enormous, a huge sleeping giant stretching at least 4 metres from the round rock that was his head to the 2 sticking up rocks that made his feet. One rocky knee was raised up and bent, and one of his arms looked as if it was pointing out to sea, towards the 3 turtle rocks. I began with the arms. I always do the easiest thing first. I'm like that. I wasn't going to have to do much fetching and carrying to make the arms. The sand was still wet from the tide, heavy to carry, but all the better for sculpting and shaping. Polly would come back from time to time to show me her collections of shells and to tell me what she thought of my handiwork. Fatter, she kept saying. He's got to be a great fat giant like Dadci says. So all that morning I made him fatter. By the time I finished, he had a huge great belly like a sumo wrestler. He had arms and legs to match. Polly added the finishing touches. Cuttle shells for his mouth and his eyebrows, clams for his ears, cockle shells for his teeth, and cowries for his fingernails and toenails, limpet shells for his eyes, and a huge black oyster shell for his nose, mussels for buttons, sea lettuce for his hair, and a great big belt of seaweed around his tummy, with a crab shell for a buckle. She stood beside me and looked down at him critically. But Don't you think he should be a little fatter? She said, her head on one side. Nope, I said quickly. I think he's just right as he is. Anyway, there's no point. The tide will soon be in and he'll be all washed away. I'm going to stop there. So, they've built a Sandman. They've used all those things to decorate him. What do you think is going to happen to the Sandman? What does it mean when it says the tide is going to come in? What do you think might happen to the Sandman if the tide comes in? I challenge you to draw a picture of a Sandman based on the description that Michael Morpurgo has given us in the book. You can go back to the part of the video to hear that description again if that will help you with your drawing. See if you can do it. You could do it in 2 paint or you could do it in your Yellow Your Learning journal. It's entirely up to you. Okay? You might even want to use root paints and paint a picture properly. Alright? It's entirely your choice. So, I'll be back tomorrow where we can find out, is the tide going to come in? What is going to happen to Sandman? Let's wait and see. Take care, be safe, be good.